All right. Welcome to the Right Now Writers Group. So, this is a brand new experience that I'm putting out to the community for you as I'm rebranding from the Kauffman's Corner brand to Right Now. This is a brand new format that I'm trying where I wanted to emulate a live writers group. So, for the format today, I have a couple of the other writers here in the studio with me. I'm going to bring them up in just a second. What we'll do is we're going to format this as a live writers group. If you're here in the chat, feel free to join the conversation, join in on the writing sprints, and just be a part of it. Just because you're not on screen doesn't mean that you're any less of a member. All right, so we're going to be switching off between some writers chat and some writing sprints, and maybe if we have time, we'll end off with a cool little writing game. All right, so let me bring everyone up onto the stream. Perfect. Let me unmute, and welcome all my friends. Welcome, guys. So I have everyone here in the stream with me, Calvin, Penelope, Dana, and Soul. I put out a couple invites to the community. So we'll see how if writers join throughout the stream. The goal for this is it'll probably be maybe about hour and a half. So feel free to come join in the conversation. By the way, WTC, welcome. How can I write now if you aren't here? Does that mean I have to write later? Yes, WTC. That means you have to write later. That means you have to write right after. Something tells me that with this Right Now rebrand, I'm going to start getting a lot of Right Now puns. I saw that the other day too. I don't know if that was you, Penelope, but we're going to start getting punny in here over time. Hey, what's up, Mary? Welcome. Beautiful. So even though this is a live format, I'm going to be treating this like a real writers group. And like starting off, I think most of you guys kind of know each other. Why don't we just like go around real quick for everyone who doesn't? Just do like a quick introduction of yourself. Let's see to keep this. So introduce yourself. What's like the type of writing that you like to write, like your genre or format, and then what is your favorite piece of writing, whether that's a book, TV show, film, or any type of media. I will start. All of you know that obviously I'm Kauffman. I am a fantasy, sci-fi, and all-around dragon enthusiast. I am, let's see, what's my favorite? I've been on a Game of Thrones kick right now. So Game of Thrones, oh, I love it. I love Game of Thrones so much, except for season 8. I love Game of Thrones. So great show, great books. And if we're lucky, book 6 will come out within the next 20 years. Okay. And that's enough about me. I'll pass it over to you, Calvin. I'll let you take over.
Name's Calvin. I am a military science fiction fantasy writer. If I have to think of something I do enjoy reading, it was a book from my high school called Dragon's Bane. It is something I enjoy reading because I don't see too many books like it. So, Penelope, you're up.
Yay! My name is Penelope Hartley. I think that genre is a palette, and I like to write in all of them. I'm working on a series of speculative literary fantasies right now, and another one that is a horror sci-fi schmexy anthology. So I like to
I like that the term is schmexy.
Schmexy. Wink, wink, schmexy. I like to dabble in a little bit of everything. My favorite thing that I'm doing is usually whatever is in front of me, and I just picked up a copy of Truman Capote's In Cold Blood from my local thrift store. And gosh, like I grew up in Kansas, and if you don't know the story, it's about a couple of murders that happened back in the 50s, 60s. And I grew up in Kansas, and I am fascinated with the fact that he can make Kansas sound so interesting. Like, I'm just truly blown away. I'm like, I've lived here my whole life. I never thought it was that cool. Like, wow, he's a great writer.
Who doesn't love a good murder story, a good murder mystery?
Yes. He's very character driven. So yeah, it's.
I hear Kansas, and I just think there's no place like home.
There really is someplace other than home. If you're from here, like a lot of different places would work.
Okay, So I am Dana Bell. I write in science fiction, fantasy, horror, paranormal romance, and I'm working on breaking into middle grade. And I tend to kind of cross genres. I don't really stay in one genre. Um, I read, my favorite author basically is Andre Norton. I have read almost everything that she has ever written or she ever did write. And I even wrote to her once and she wrote back.
Ooh,
Nice.
that's exciting.
It's exciting, yeah.
All right, so we'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I'm Sol McNamara. I pretty much stay within fantasy and sci-fi. Right now, I'm working on a fanfiction series, which is actually getting pretty popular. Trying to continue that and working on a couple others on the side. So, I actually grew up reading the Warrior series by Aaron Hunter. That was actually the biggest inspiration behind me writing in the first place, as well as L.A. Meyer's Bloody Jack series. Yeah, as you can see, definitely a pirate fan.
Yar.
Well, I absolutely love it. Thank you all for sharing. Real quick, I just want to welcome Mary. Glad to have you here with us. ML Claxon, welcome. John, welcome, 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 welcome. My friend. And Zara, I'm glad to have you in here. Eli, welcome to the stream. For those of you who are just hopping in, the Right Now Writers Group is a brand new format where members of the Right Now community are being invited to come join us for an actual live writing group. So we just did a quick round of introductions. What we're going to do is, before we hop into a writing sprint, something that was kind of like top of mind for me, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. What is one of the biggest obstacles that you guys face as writers? For me, I think this past year, it's been a little bit of, I think, writing during a live stream process, writing an entire book, but mine's like a very unique problem because nobody's really doing it. But yeah, so I'm curious what you guys deal with, because I've like pulled so many unpublished writers over the past 6 months, and there's like 5 ones that I get all the time, but I'm curious to hear from you guys. I'll throw it to somebody else.
For me, it's getting over my writer's block and finding time to write, because a lot of times I work a 2 to 10:30 shift. So, and my mornings is generally busy with doing other things. So when I come home 10:30 at night, the last thing I want to do, well, actually 11 o'clock at night, the last thing I know I need to do is I need to get on, because my story's finished. So I know I need to get on and start editing it. That is the last thing I want to do at 11 o'clock at night. So I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, and conveniently tomorrow that never comes for writing.
It's always that dilemma, isn't it? Right? It's like, we know we need to write, but then we also have life to contend with. Bills have to be paid. We have to have a hobbies. We have to have a downtime. All those things. Oof. Have any of you guys found successful strategies for like being able to overcome writer's block in your own life?
Yeah. My husband basically gave me a mental kick in the butt.
Okay, so having
No,
a
he
husband is going to
more or less, it was, how important is this? How bad do you want to get this done? And he just basically shamed me into writing.
So your husband just comes up to you and he's like, shame, shame, shame.
Does he go
it
behind?
worked because my book's published.
Hey, well,
Does
you
he
know
go
what?
behind you
There
with
you
the bell?
go.
Does he go behind you with the bell? Shame, shame.
Oh God, not physically, but probably mentally. That's a good description of it.
I tend to rest between projects. And that's what I do. I mean, last year was like boom, 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 one right after the other. And I ended up spending a couple of months just resting because I was exhausted.
Mm.
And I tend to get writer's block during that time period, but I also know it's like, look, you did 2 anthologies last year. You did a book. You did short story submissions. You've been busy. So take a break, let yourself rest, and then start your next project, which is why I have 3 going on right now.
I find that's actually really common. Are all of you guys working on more than one project at a time? Is that like a
Yes.
common thing with writers? Like, you're not a true writer unless you have at least like 2 to 10 projects that are in your catalog.
10 seems kind of weak.
Hey, you know what? Some writers I've talked with, they have a high number of projects, but they published a book, and I'm like, all right, clearly whatever you do still works. I'm like, what? I just try to imagine. I'm like, I wake up in the morning. I'm like, what do I feel like writing today? Okay, today I feel like vampires. But then tomorrow I'm like, okay, you know what? I feel like a robot monkey in space. Let's change gears.
My general strategy is this: I work on project A. When I hit a block for 3 days in a row where I cannot work on project A, I sidestep to project B. And then I work on that with a fresh face. And I do that when I get to, again, 3 days in a row with no project, with no real progress. I shift back to project A. Project A is my main project. Project B is like, I'll work on it. I'll work on it once every 3 weeks for a couple hours.
Honestly, one of my tricks is because I actually have multiple projects. I have more than just the 3 I'm working on. I leave myself notes at the end of my manuscripts. Like wherever I stop writing, I'm like, okay, write this down, write this down, write this down. What's the next scene? What are you working toward? Oh, don't forget about this little thing that you need to resolve. And that has actually increased my production incredibly. It took me a while to learn it, but it is incredibly successful. Particularly since my publisher is expecting my next 2 books, and I have a pitch for the middle grade book next week with the publisher.
Oof, good luck with that one. That must be really exciting.
I'm excited, nervous. The writing conference that I'm attending virtually starts tomorrow. So
Nice.
That's very cool. I have yet to attend any cool writing conferences, Dana, but I know we've chatted about it before. I'm like, I think next year, I think 2025 is going to be the year where Kauffman gets to go to writing conferences. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I was supposed to go in person, but I had a major, basically somebody got into my account and stole a bunch of money. So, stuff happens, life happens, and I'm just like, whatever, it happened. But that's kind of why I got a little bit behind. I also I've got a health issue, which makes it not wise for me to travel right now. So
I think what it is, Dana, is it's just a sign that one of your forthcoming books is going to become a bestseller, and you're going to make all that money to recoup your losses.
Well, I had a book come out in January, and my next book comes out in August.
Ooh, that's exciting. Who here has books that have either published, that have released at some point this year or about to release? So Dana, obviously, Penelope, Soul, Calvin. Ooh, that's exciting. I know I've spoken like Last Scarecrow. Like I think I was originally planning on publishing it end of year, but after speaking with one of the publishing experts on one of the Create Right Now podcast episodes, they were recommending that you don't, or that it can be more strategic to publish a book in the beginning, in at least like the first half of a year, because if you publish at the end of it, then it gets to January and people are like, oh, that book is last year. I don't know if either of you guys would, or if any of you guys, yes, no, I've heard that before, but I was like, I guess it's kind of interesting.
I'm doing a serial, so like mine are going to be ongoing.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Vela is episodic is a completely different format.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
that's less reliant on like a stand. That's less reliant on a launch event,
right?
And it's more building a following, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I've been both a writer who has a really busy life, and I'm currently a writer who writes exclusively. And you think that once you can sit down with all that free time, that you're going to be much more productive. No, it's a mental thing. It is 100%. It's you. I'm the problem. So it took me.
Are we our own worst enemies?
Yes, you absolutely are. I'm not trying to be mean, but like, and I get being exhausted and tired and just not feeling like it, but that doesn't necessarily. There comes a point when you decide you're going to either do it or not. And I really had to come to that point. And so I did it by creating a strategy for myself that included word counts. So I'm working on 2 different series right now, and I'm writing. I just knocked out this manuscript, an alpha draft for a book, and I did about 5,000 words a day for a month and a half, and that was intense and crazy. So I do about 1,000 to 2,000 words a day per series, and I edit as I go. So I mean, I end up with about 2,000 words a day, 4,000 total, and that
really
keeps
good.
me honest. That keeps me honest, and it also keeps. It doesn't matter if I don't know what I'm writing about. Like, it has to be done. So I will sit there and write the dumbest crap I can think of just to get through the damn scene, so I can get to the part I want to write, right? Like, I'm having that problem right now. It feels a little constipated. Like, I really want to just get to the like end of this particular part, and I'm like, it won't come. It won't come. So we're just gonna, at this point, you just have to sit there and vomit. The vomit draft. They call the vomit draft. You just whatever. Doesn't matter.
But I think that's good that you get it out though. I think that's really good. I'm like with writers, I'm like, I'd rather you have write garbage than write nothing, right? And it's like, for all we know though, that garbage turns into like the perfect idea for on the second draft, the next character, and
Honestly,
it's like you don't know where it leads to.
Honestly, like, there's a thing that happens when if you stop caring so much, because that's usually the problem. You care too much how it's going to look, how it's going to sound, how people are going to take it. If you stop caring and you just do the weirdest thing that you can think of, it's usually way more creative and interesting than anything else you could have come up with if you were trying. So yeah. I mean, like, it's that paradox of like creativity only comes when you're not looking for it. But absolutely. And it's better to have, you can edit garbage. You can't edit a blank page. So yeah, just
the other writing group I go to says kind of similar thing. Just get it down on paper and then worry about doing the like refinement later on.
Yeah, that is the common thing. That's one of the most useful things that an editor told me. And as an editor, I do the same thing. And I mentor a lot of writers who are like, "This is horrible," and I'm like, "Look, get your story out, your real writing, where you fine tune it and do whatever." That happens in your rewrites, however many there will be. I do a minimum of 5.
Interesting. You do 5 full rewrites?
I do a minimum of just 5 revisions when I go through. Sometimes it's, elongating a scene or whatever. I have one very carefully done scene in Paranormal Romance. But I had to go through that thing 3 or 4 times to get all the details, because it is such a turning scene in the whole entire novel that had to be done a certain way. And it took going through and redoing. And like, one character had given her jewelry who was trying to imprison her. The other character had to remove that jewelry and threw it on the floor. And so and I didn't even catch it until like maybe my 4th or 5th time through. And I went, wait a minute, these 2 guys are enemies. You know what you need to do in this scene. And it was the one scene that my publisher actually said something about when we talked about it. And this is an R-rated novel. She normally only does PG-13. So I'm pleased as punch. And she's told me, and other people have told me, it's the best thing you've ever written.
That must feel very validating that you put in that work, got the feedback, and still it's really well done.
It's very well done. I'm very proud of it. It is under a pen name, but it is one very well done book. And
I think that's what matters at the end of the day, right? I mean, if we're writing a book to make money, right, then we have to have the right strategies. But if we're writing a book to have fun, tell our stories, then just putting it out there, like, that's success. And I think sometimes clarifying what success looks like for us, for whether we have 0 books out or a couple or many, I think that's where the key is right there.
I got to admit, my group noticed this last night. I've been reading through one of my fan fictions for them, and I mean, they've heard me read through Pirates. They've heard even some scenes from the second book. And last night, apparently my fan fiction is the best thing I've written so far. At least that's what they told me. I'm just doing that for fun. I mean, not like I was writing pirates for money anyway. I mean, I've been planning that since I was 12. So yeah, no, I was not planning on making money with that. Nice, but not the point. But with my fan fictions, it is literally just fun and just trying something different.
Mhm.
And I ended up just taking One Piece and doing an alternate universe, alternate timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, it's turning out to be like the best thing I've done so far. I have so many people interested in it. It's hilarious. And it's like, I literally did not care about this until I actually started writing it. And then I just treated it as something fun.
I think that's one of the great things with fan fiction. And I know, I think, Dana, you've said this before as well, but I think fan fiction is a great starting point. Well, obviously, like experienced writers do fan fiction all the time, but for writers who don't have much experience, fan fiction is a perfect gateway to practice writing because the rules of the world is already established. Characters are already established. You don't have to have a lot of skill. All you have to do is have some type of knowledge of whatever world you love and then create a character, whether that's a pre-existing one or a brand new one. So I think that's I end up seeing a lot of newer writers in fan fiction. I myself started my early online writing journeys. I think I must have been maybe like 10 or 11, I believe, when I got into the online role-playing forums. And like that, and that was like the early role-playing forums. They still exist. They absolutely do, but I think they're just in a different format these days. But I think it's absolutely incredible because you're just practicing as characters, which is awesome.
And fan fiction's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to do. It saved my writing career. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background because when fan fiction originally came out, writers who were writing fan fiction had a hard time getting original work published. However, that has flipped. And publishers are aware of the fact that fan fiction is out there, and they may ask you, "Do you write fan fiction?" Yeah. Where can I look at it? And I have had that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've never written fan fiction. When I came on the internet back in the early nils, is that what we're calling it now? The Zs, the zeros, 2000, 2001, whatever.
I think I think that's the I think that's considered the web 1.0.
Back when grandma wandered into the web.
Web 1.0 is the age of the early age of emails, of AOL Messenger, of dial-up, of broadband. Web 2.0 is really social media.
Oh,
Facebook,
okay. So this would have been
YouTube,
like, yeah, 1.0, before Facebook. And I was doing poetry websites. So I didn't do fan fiction. I've never actually written fiction until like the last 3 years. I always wrote poetry before that. So
that's kind of what changed. What caused you to transition?
Nobody
to
reads poetry.
I think a lot of people read poetry out there, but I think it's a much more niche. It's a more niche interest.
I love being a poet who switched sides. I love writing like prose and things like I like world building. I think I could write movies if I wanted to write movies, but I'm not a director, so I started writing them instead. And I think that was just like, that's been a fabulous experience for me. I get to use language for these really long passages now instead of like smishing everything into a page. It's great.
I think what's interesting, having worked on both scripts and both on television scripts, screenplays, and then novels, obviously, I think I think at heart, storytelling is the same. Like, you still have to develop characters, you have to develop a world, you need dialogue. But what changes is the way that it's portrayed, right? A script where focused on the dialogue and the actions, whereas books are focused obviously on interiority and combination of the other things.
Cool.
Okay, beautiful. So with that, so we're hitting about a 25-minute mark. So I think now seems like a good time for us to hop into a writing sprint. Let's get some writing done. If you are here in the community with us, feel free to join on the writing sprint and make sure that you stick around. So I'm thinking we'll do probably a couple writing sprints and then a writing game at the end. So if you want to see a fun writing game, well, we'll see how it goes. But first off, most importantly, writing. So I'm thinking let's just hop into the writing sprint and then we can kind of chat about where we're at with our stories after. And if you're here in the audience, definitely feel free to join us. I want to hear from you. I've seen a couple of you guys commenting. Eli, I love what you're saying. John, you definitely have. I get to the end and I'm scared to finish a project, so then I start something else. It's like once you've written that like amazing book, you're like, what's next? What's next? Sometimes we got to take a break. So I'm glad to have all you guys here. Welcome, Desolate. Welcome, Tiara. Welcome, Glitchum. Glad to have all y'all here. Okay, so let's see. I got to share my screen. We'll start off super easy. We'll do a 20-minute sprint. Let me adjust my screen. Perfect. So you guys can see, I'll have my writing software. You guys are used to my last scarecrow. Perfect. And I will do this. I'm at an interesting part of my story, and we will go from there. Awesome. I will throw up the music, and we will go like normal. All right. So I got 20 minutes on the clock.
Okay.
All right. And it's time to write now. All right, writing timer done. So I'm going to bring everybody back up on the stream, but real quick, I want to hear from you in the comments. If you're getting some good writing in, drop it down in the comments below. Let us know how you're doing. I would love to see, did the writing sprint help you? Are you enjoying the stream? And if you're enjoying the stream, don't forget, follow and subscribe. The Right Now Writers Group is something that we're going to be doing every single Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern at this time. If you want to be involved with the group and you want to hop on the stream with us in future meetings, drop a comment, let me know in the future, and I will add you to our membership. All right, beautiful. And with that, let's bring everyone back up onto the screen. Let me unmute, and here we go. Awesome. Hey, what's up, guys? How did how'd that sprint treat y'all?
Good.
Hopefully getting some good writing in. I know with Last Scarecrow, I'm at a strange part right now because I'm at about 85, probably 86%. And last week I wrote one of the first big reveal moments of Last Scarecrow, of the climax scene. And I know that I needed to do a little flashback to really lead into the next big reveal. So I'm trying to figure out the antagonist's history, doing it as a flashback without pulling too much from the dramatic, from the action. So I'm kind of playing around with how these flashbacks actually feel. Flashbacks, always a journey. I've definitely played around. I guess I'm doing flashbacks, but it's really a mix of memory magic that I'm using in mine. So it's interesting. I ask myself, can I do a series of flashback sequences without making them feel like flashbacks?
That's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, come on.
How about you guys? How's the writing treating you? And I know we didn't really talk about our projects beforehand, but where are you guys at in your writing process? What project are you working on right now? I'd love to hear from you guys.
Well, I am working on the next book that comes out for Home Fall Search. And I have a little doubt of my own talent, and yes, that happens to all writers, as to whether or not I can actually do this.
No.
Because it's like a harem type scene. Harem. They're going to be in the harem and politics, that kind of fun stuff.
Remind me what the name of the book was again, Dana.
The one that's coming out is Home Fall Search. The book that I'm writing now has no title yet. But it's the fun part because that's where all the political stuff happens. And I had a major revelation to change my bad guy. I was going to make it the person who used to be the head of the Earth colony, but now I decided, no, she's a tool of someone else. And so, because she's the one who's going to find out all the dirty little secrets, and which is going to be very important in the third book. And I've got a lot of scenes already written in my head for the third book. So
isn't that always really exciting when you're partway into your story and the perfect antagonist or character plot point just comes to you? Yeah, it's one of the most rewarding things for me.
Yeah. Well, originally she was supposed to be the bad guy, and then I went, I don't think that's really a good idea. I mean, I understand the political things that are going on now, and I'm like, but I don't really want to do that with this character. I want something to happen to change her heart. And I found the perfect thing that is going to do that.
Nice. Good.
And so it's going to be a lot of fun to do all this. This one's mostly political, at least as far as the harems are concerned. There's other things going on too. I know who 3 of my narrators are, but I don't know who.
Yeah, dealing with political elements is probably always challenging because you have to have the different factions or sides or groups very clearly defined, but then you also have to have other social politics defined, and it goes to a very there's a lot of world building and character development there to make it effective.
Well, I have one advantage since I'm loosely basing it on the Book of Esther. I am actually there's a movie called One Night with the King, which actually shows all of that. So I've got some idea on how to do it.
Oh, cool.
So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Sounds cool.
It is. It's going to be a lot of fun.
You know, if you're enjoying writing it, like that makes it so much better for the reader. So often, because you can tell if somebody's enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, it's. I had to relearn what fun was. Why is my writing fun? And once I relearned all of that, and that I actually enjoy doing this, I forgot all about all this, the dreams. I don't care if I'm on the bestseller list. I don't care, whatever. You know, I'll find my audience. I'm not going to worry about making money. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm also a lot happier as a writer right now.
Yeah, doing what you love is super important. I actually had to split up my writing so that I could have one that was more of an income stream. Hopefully, we will see. And then I kept my passion projects in a different area because I wanted to be able to. I wanted to be able to financially support myself as a writer, but I also wanted to. I like the format of a serialized. Because you get a following with that, and I wanted to use that to introduce them to, because my my other stuff is so weird that it's just difficult to talk about.
It's more like niche.
Yeah, it's like a lot of different, like, okay, so my example is always The Princess Bride came out, and nobody knew how to market it because it was so many different things. So I suffer from the same problem with my my Quantum Tarot series. Like, they're just, each book is standalone, each book is different. I have romances, I have a political / corporate war, I have one dude hanging out at the end of the world. I have they're each different because they each are represented by 3 different tarot cards. And like I said, I like playing with genres. So that's my kind of my baby, my the thing that gives me the most joy. But then I decided I also wanted to make money. So I started, I did some research. It's something you've got to consider if you're going to go into business for yourself as a writer. Do you want to make money doing it? And I said, yes, please. So I came up, and this has been a lot of fun too, though, because I decided to go with, and that's what I was working on during the writing sprint was, it's called Jezebel's Theater of Macabre Delights. And it's...
and by the way, for anyone here in the stream, we read an excerpt of it, of Penelope's Jezebel's Theater, on this last Saturday's Story and Critique show. Definitely make sure you check out that episode if you haven't.
It was, it's always so much fun. And you guys, you gave me such great feedback. I was like, absolutely. I mean, you say, you know, we were talking about this a little bit before the show started. Like, you can just listen to your editor or not. I always listen to you every time. Like, I don't even like,
Aww.
I question so much of reality and my own existence that it's just nice to be like, I'm sure he's right. I'm just going to do that. But yeah,
you know, I wish I was right all the time. I think doing those critiques is like a
No.
live experience. I feel like I'm right. At least subjectively, I feel like I have good advice like 75 to 80% of the time.
Well, I feel like for me, like I can be very bizarre, and I feel like you kind of speak bizarre, but you also know how the audience is going to be able to understand it a little bit better. So you're kind of the intermediary between like the bizarre and what your audience expectations are going to be. So that's why I've always appreciated what you've done for. And yeah, everything I went in and I cleaned up that first part with Jezebel. I gave it a big thing. It's like, it's kind of like Tales from the Crypt, in that you
which
have
is a really cool format. Have you guys seen any more modern versions of Tales of the Crypt? Reminds me a little like Twilight Zone-ish. It's like anthology, but it's set within a stage. Kind of almost Rocky Horror kind of has a meta type of vibe. I'm curious.
Yeah, it's it's like the stage kind of disappears and it becomes the story, right? But I was originally going to do a sketchbook, and like she's drawing these stories, but I decided theater was so much more fun and extravagant.
Yeah.
You can do so much more with it. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. And that was the thing I was having trouble pushing out. So like sitting down and being like, we're going to make it by the end of tonight. So I just did 500 words, and I bridged a gap that I was needing to bridge. And I have one more bridge to build today. And so yes, mine was a rather successful writing sprint.
Some
Huzzah.
older series, I'm sorry, some older series that are kind of along the lines, if you can find them, Tales of the Dark Side
Mhm.
and Friday the 13th, the series.
Mhm.
Mm.
I've seen some of those. I haven't seen Tales of the Dark Side. I'll have to check that out.
My
I
favorite,
really like the format. I really like the idea of like short moralized, like especially like if they have like a moral, but they're also terrifying and a little bit schmexy. So
Another good one would have been like, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
yeah, like
Okay.
that
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of been like that, and this part is
I loved
this,
that when I was young. The Are You Afraid of the Dark
yeah.
story?
It's probably where I
Like,
got the idea. Well, I didn't even watch that many Tales from the Crypt, but I loved his introductions. Like I love the Crypt Keeper. I thought he was such a cool character, and I kind of combined him and Elvira together because Elvira is just amazing. So like, I mean, she's kind of looks like Elvira, and she's kind of campy and goofy because it's got that vibe as well. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's so like this is my like I want to make money. And this is what works really well, but let's do it so that I'm having fun doing it. So right now I'm talking about a guy getting seduced by a wizard lizard, so it's great.
Who doesn't love a character being seduced by a wizard?
Her name came out of the writing game that we did on your epic live stream, because I think I said her name. The name was Gandalfina.
Gandalfina.
So I ended up like
a mermaid story.
the mermaid
What a
story. Yeah,
fun
so I was like, what
experience.
do I name my wizard? It's Wizafina.
Was it okay?
There's just gonna
That's
be
actually
so
kind
many
of catchy.
Afinas from now. All right.
yeah, I remember Elvira. She actually had a couple of movies, and I've seen them both.
She's great. I loved her.
Yeah, she lived in Colorado Springs, actually.
Yeah, she was from Manhattan, Kansas. So it's like, yeah, Kansas. Somebody from Kansas did something cool. What?
Well, we had one of the actresses from the original Dark Shadows who lived actually in the same city that I'm in.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Right on.
Yeah, she passed on a few years back, but it was like, oh, somebody that I grew up watching was actually lived where I'm living now.
Right. It's always that really from around here.
It's definitely like a shock when you meet either certain like authors or TV or actors or authors who you've like either consumed their content or you've seen them, and then meeting them in person it's just like
it's surreal.
Yeah, surreal. I think surreal is a good way of framing it. I was in LA for quite a number of years, so we ended up seeing so many different just like types of actors. And then anytime there was like a known actor and they come into one of the coffee shops, everyone just like wants to go talk with them. I'm like, that's the vibe.
So who drop a couple names. Who are we talking about here?
I mean, okay, so I mean, we're being over in LA for so long. There's so many probably like a mix of like A, B, C, and list like actors. Predominantly more actors because everything's production studios, and all of like the coffee shops there are in between the production houses.
That makes sense.
I would say, and this is actually because we were talking about this show. I was talking about the show with a friend yesterday. I would say there's one time where we saw the cast of the Magicians series. A couple of them were in there, and that was super cool. Chad with some of the cast of Shameless. A little more. Magicians and Shameless are a little more
Nice.
couple of years, but both really cool, great actors, great conversations. I think one of the most interesting actors I met was probably like Tim Allen. Tim Allen was like a really interesting mate. He was like kind of like yeah. He was funny, but he was very in his own world.
Yeah. I often wondered if his role in Galaxy Quest is very much just kind of him.
I love Galaxy Quest.
It's such a good movie.
I just rewatched that again.
Oh, I could rewatch that one many times. Like Galaxy Quest and Princess Bride kind of go into that era for me of like, I love both of them individually for different reasons.
Oh, by the way, there's a comic book of Galaxy Quest Adventure Continues.
I saw that. I saw a picture of that online somewhere. I was like, interesting.
I found it by accident at a thrift store.
I love that.
Sometimes those are the best. Those are the best lines. I think we have a really good quote from Eli. By Grubthar's hammer.
Yes.
What is
Yes, Eli. Eli, you get our comment of the day.
That was great.
Awesome. So with where we're at right now, so we're just crossing the hour mark. And I'll kind of leave this to you guys. So I was thinking of this stream being somewhere between hour and a half. We have enough time for either a writing sprint or a writing game. What would you guys prefer? I'll leave it up to you guys. I'm neutral. I go either way. I am amenable.
I actually have to get going. I got to meet with my other group, so I will talk to you guys later.
Completely understandable. Calvin, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys.
Awesome. How about you three? What are you guys thinking?
I'd kind of like to keep working on my chapter personally. I reached chapter 5 in my fan fiction and really trying to figure out how to work with this character.
I have a quick question. What is your what fandom are you writing in?
I'm writing a One Piece fan fiction, and I'm working with Zoe and Devil Fruits right now. And it's, swear to God, I cannot figure this character out. So I'm just like really trying to rack my brains around this. Basically, Zoe and Devil Fruit is you eat the fruit and you can become an animal. There's a lot of them in the series. There's dragon, leopard.
Yeah,
the
I mean, I think it's
fruit.
all about. I think if I recall with One Piece, it's all about these like demon fruits that exist in the world. Each fruit has a different ability.
Okay.
And the
Yeah,
main
there's only like one of each fruit.
The main character's fruit is like this. I think the stretchy, or he's stretchy. I just forgot what it's called.
I don't want to give spoilers, but it is actually not a paramecia, so it's more than just stretchiness.
But that does make sense. As the protagonist, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody's surprised at the direction Oda went with it. I mean, we're still like surprised. It's like, holy crap, but at the same time, we're just like, this is the main character. Of course, this happens. But
I think it's always interesting with anime where you're following these stories. Well, I mean, obviously the manga first, and then the anime after, where you're following stories where they have hundreds upon hundreds of issues and episodes, where you're developing characters and supporting characters and side characters, and sometimes the plots work out consistently, sometimes they don't. I could imagine how challenging that must be, especially with the team, and to keep the story consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I have trouble with some of my fan fictions alone. I almost had trouble with Pirates, and that was just like one little series. One Piece has been going on for like 25 years, so it's just like, yeah, like
Lamena's over here, over 1,000 chapters.
Yeah, I think we just reached what episode 1,112, or no, I think that's a chapter or something, and then like, yeah, basically it's well over 1,000. I'm completely caught up, so I just like lost track.
Wait, when I think about all-time or like longest running formats, I think one of my probably longest running formats would be the TV show Doctor Who, which is the longest running science fiction show of all time right now.
I'm not surprised.
And I'm like, absolutely. Whether the quality still remains is hit or miss, but overall, still appreciate the process and the characters.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So with that being said, then let's hop into another writing sprint. Let's do it. Let's get some writing done. All right. So for those of you who are here in the stream with us, whether you are brainstorming, writing, or editing, it's all part of the process. Come join us along in the action. I'm going to throw up some more music. Let me switch back to my screen. All right. Awesome. Y'all see I wouldn't say I'm struggling on my own. I think I'm doing all right. We'll see. All right. So let me go back to the 20-minute timer. Awesome. So feel free to come join us in this next sprint, and then we'll return after. All right, so I got 20 minutes on the clock, and wait for it to reset. Let's write now. Right. Writing sprint done. Writing sprint done. Let's see how everyone did. All right. Bringing everybody back up. Wonderful. Wow. All right. How did that writing sprint treat y'all? If you're here in the live stream, drop it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you as well. I hope you're able to get some work done. I know for me, I was like, I'm at such a crazy part of my story. I'm at literally like such an incredibly crazy part, and I know that there's a lot going on. I'm having fun with dealing with the demon's magic, and I'm showing that my antagonist, the demon, his very early magic is the Chris. We see these very early creators in a very early age capture the demon. This is a flashback, and they for the first time one of them they all touch the demon, and where they touch him, the red crystals form on their skins. And one of the humans, the creators that I call them, we watch as the crystals travel up his arm, across his body, and completely embody and encase him. And then the crystals fall away, and in his place is a monkey.
Oh.
Mhm. Showing some like early some references to the demon's magic, which I've been building up to for a while.
Mm-hmm. You do know how monkeys act, right?
What was that?
You do know how monkeys act, right?
Not based off of only based off shows and film I've seen. Since I'm writing a book full of animals, I know for the second draft I have like a whole bout of research. Probably have to go to some zoos. Like I know there's a good deal of stuff I need to do. And the reason I didn't do too much of it beforehand was because I'm playing around with so many different animal types. I probably have a good 20 to 40 variety of animals throughout the story, but the protagonist is really only like about 4 or 5. So definitely work for my second story.
Okay, I'm going to make a suggestion. When you're checking out monkeys, look for Cambodian refuges for monkeys.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna write that down. You said Cambodian refugees?
Monkey refuges, yeah.
Okay.
They showed up on Facebook, and I spent like several weeks watching them, and based some characters off of that on a couple of my planets. And I what appears to me a pretty controversial scene in there because one of the male monkeys is dragging one of the babies around by its tail.
Mm-hmm.
And they
interesting. Okay.
And it's kind of like, I'm like, well, they do that. So watching that is actually what inspired me. Because otherwise I was thinking Planet of the Apes type thing. And I went, wait a minute, I really like these monkeys.
That's actually really cool. That's a really great idea. I'm definitely going to use that or check that out as reference.
Yeah, it's Grizzly. I will tell you that they do some horrific things. It's amazing any of those babies survive to adulthood.
Ooh. Yeah, I think, Dana, that's one of the challenges that I face with the second draft. Like, I've given myself a very high challenge of writing a story full of animals with very minimal knowledge about animals. So I know that I have a lot of research for the descriptions to make these animals believable, at least to a certain extent, in the universe that I've created. So
I'm good with big cats. I've gotten good with wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really good with these monkeys thanks to these videos that I watched. It was like, oh, they have to be in my book. They have to be in my book.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing as well. I'm like, right now in the first draft, I've just kind of picked animals that I like. And I mean, out of the main characters, obviously the only 2 animals that I really have to like further develop is a grizzly bear, a crow, and then potentially a snake, a skunk too, kind of. But I've been going back and forth. But then like the middle act has a whole bunch of just like supporting characters, and I'm like, all right, there's a lot of research.
I was down an animal rabbit hole myself today. I worked at a pet store for about a year that had a lot of really like reptile crazy people working there. So I got to hang out with a lot of like lizard people are like the biggest fandom I've ever met.
Like,
Really? Oh yeah, actually I
was
could see that actually from like
crazy.
people who I've known, like lizard snakes too, kind of people who are
Snakes and
really into like
snakes and reptiles. So I
reptiles.
knew.
Yeah.
So I have my nemesis is a lizard person from another planet, but like she has chins and tentacles, and I wanted to give her lizards. So I went down the lizard video rabbit hole today, and I ended up using a tegu, one of the more obedient butler type. They're beautiful creatures. They look like snakes that swallowed an armadillo backwards, and they walk like an alligator, but they must be about 4 feet long. And then the green iguanas for more of a punk, like
Ooh,
I'm gonna
I
beat
kind of
you
like
up. They're the
that.
ones that slap you with their tails. So I used a combination of He's more. I named him after one of the characters in Hook, Rufio.
Ooh, love that.
Because it was such a
Love
punk
Hook.
name, and he was such a punk too. I was like, I'm gonna call this guy Rufio because he's cute with the little mohawk and everything. But so I had like minimal like some understanding of how lizards acted and especially what their environmental needs are, because I was selling that to people. And so it's like a very humid room, and there's a lot of like branches and bright lights and things like that because they're cold-blooded. And again, like my character herself is cold-blooded too because she's
Okay, that makes sense.
but like part just looking them up online for like 20 minutes, like, okay, that's what it looks like, cool.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys will know when I start going through that research process. Like, obviously, Dana, Penelope, I'll be coming to you guys when start having questions. But I think the success, at least for supporting characters, is using the right descriptions, the right adjectives, the right verbs to really being applying to that species. I'm probably gonna have to go way in depth for the major characters, but it's on my like list of things to do.
I think there's a
Absolutely.
difference between being like doing an accurate description and doing like a description that people are going to understand.
Yeah,
like,
and I think that's the balance, right? In the middle of the story, I have a coliseum where there's probably like 15 different types of animals that are in it. And then I'm asking myself, like, okay, so, and I'm thinking to the second draft, how do I describe the different species while still pulling the reader in? Like, obviously, it doesn't have to be too much, but a bird fighting against an iguana, like, what's that look like? What's that sound like? Exactly.
Yeah. There's a gentleman who was a forest ranger in the Great Smokies, I think, who was a huge snake enthusiast. And I watched his videos because they were fascinating.
Yeah. Cool.
He talked about copperheads and water moccasins, like they were just the coolest things.
Yeah, like, oh, these aren't poisonous. These are fun.
And he was a lot
Look at
of
the cutie. Like the ones who call them cuties, like especially the pointless one. Oh, you cute little copperhead. Like,
oh,
I'm like, I will watch you, but I ain't going anywhere near you in the wild. You're gonna get me bit.
So as a side note, I want to call out. So it looks like a couple of the other writers here in the community, Stephanie got 3 pages edited, which is amazing. Ooh, Stephanie, your
nice.
Process is amazing. Desolate Reader finished my story structure. Now working on the title. Titles are so much fun. Titles are awesome. And another 200 words. Excellent. Nice. It sounds like we're all making progress, which is, whether that's brainstorming, writing, or editing, it's all part of the book development process. Since we're... Oh, no, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask Soul if figured out character.
So, yeah, I'm really working on it. I actually go down the animal rabbit hole myself a lot. Nice. Most of my characters, well, except for the pirate series, of course, most of my characters actually revolve around animalistic traits. I mean, one of my characters...
So what was that, the prologue? You sent me one of the prologue, or that the journal. Is that story?
Yeah, that was one of my anthropomorphic story. Yeah. Okay. But a lot of my, like right now, the character I'm writing, she's a zoan type. She's a zoan type lynx. So today I actually had to double check what habitats do they survive in, what are their behaviors, and then I had to modify her for the One Piece universe. But at the same time, and I talked to my mom about this earlier because I was just trying to get her opinion too. I have to create an animal. I'm creating an animal that, because she's awakened, which is a state that not every devil fruit user can go through, and Zoans are really tricky because if they awaken wrong, they can lose their human selves to their animal selves. Anybody who watches One Piece knows the beast jailers of Impel Down. Those are failed awaken Zoans.
Oh, that makes sense. It's one of my favorite
The
arcs.
character I'm making, she awakened prematurely during a really bad event, and I have to create an animal that's not domesticated, but acts like they are, is not tamed but understands human speech to a point and can listen to instructions, and possibly might react how some animals react to zookeepers. And all of this is trying to keep in mind she's a human trapped inside of a lynx's body and behavior patterns, but with human intelligence somewhere in there. And it's just, this is a very weird thread I'm going on. I got the idea from my last fan fiction, because I did the same thing with a Zoan snowy owl. But that was just temporary. That was for like half a scene. And we got knocked out of it. No, she's been like this for years, so I'm having to figure out how is she going to react to this.
Nice.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely having a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah, no, it is hilarious, and I'm working with established characters, so I'm having a lot of fun with these characters because they're fan favorites. So trying to figure out how a teenage Shanks reacts to this is just fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. As we're hitting this point in the stream, before we kind of wrap up, I kind of like, when I think about weekly goals, I was thinking about like, what's my goal till I get to next week? I kind of like to hear from you guys. And if you're here in the stream, definitely drop a comment. What's your writing goal with your story? Like, where do you hope to be from a week from now, when we meet up next week?
I know for myself, either I'm probably gonna be finished with this story or close to it, because I mean I just finished a 15 chapter story in 5 days, so I might be done. But I'm hoping to at least get the next chapter done for the East Blue arc. I really need to work on that, and it's very difficult because I'm working on a character that I cannot stand.
This sounds like a good challenge to have.
It's annoying.
I found my fourth narrator.
Ooh, you found your next narrator? That's
The
exciting.
story has 4. I knew who 3 was. I just found number 4.
Cool.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, she's a teenage girl. She's not very happy, but she has to act like this big, sophisticated princess, which is what she is. And it's kind of interesting because now I'm seeing a part of her that I have never seen.
Nice.
And I went, oh, this is fun.
Ooh, that's awesome. Penelope, what about you?
I want to be done with a short story. Well, it's going to be about 20,000 words. And I wanted, because I'm publishing on Vela next week. So like at the end of next week.
You're publishing next week.
Yeah, and the story is halfway done. Like I wasn't going to do this until October, but they were running the valleys, and I was like, this is an awesome time for me to do what I was going to do anyway, as long as I can catch up in time. So when I have the story done, I've got about 10,000 more words, and I have the first week at least of what I would be posting done and like polished. So I'm confident that if I just get the draft of this thing done, I will feel so much better instead of having like this big question mark. In my other series, I'm just plugging away on the 3rd book. I'll probably work on that later. But I actually just through the 2 writing sprints, I think I did 1,500 words altogether.
Okay.
Yeah, because I write fast when I'm like, I actually care about what when you're happy and you're like what you're writing, and suddenly like 2,000 words.
When you get into it, you're like in the vibe.
Yeah,
I feel like I get there at certain moments on these streams. I'm like, yeah, I'm in it. I know what I'm doing. And other times I'm like, 1 word. Okay, let me go review again. 2 words. 3 words. And I'm just thinking of the audience. I'm like, yeah, so visually appealing, I'm sure.
Right. I can tell when I like watching your expressions. Like I can tell when you're upset about what you're writing. Like when
my
things are
family
going
tells me
wrong,
the same exact
like,
thing. They're like, Jared, you're just very expressive with your writing. Like, I'm like, when I'm writing, I'm not even paying attention on this. I'm just like, I'm in the stories. So like you can tell.
I'm pretty sure I'm doing things like,
Like nail biting. Like
yeah, like, or I'll talk to myself. Like, I'll read it aloud. So I'll be like, yeah, I'm just miming my book. But yeah, I expect to be done with this story and starting on the next one, which I'm excited about. Like, it's gonna be. That's the cool thing about writing like a short story collection.
Mhm.
You get to do something new like every couple of weeks. So.
It kind of gives a different vibe with each chapter or section.
Exactly.
Well, thank you all for sharing. As you know, Last Scarecrow, my goal is just to finish the book. I'm just going to finish the book.
You got this.
Finish the rough draft. I've been at like this 80 to 85% for like a couple of weeks. I thought I could finish it like 2 weeks ago, but it's just so good. But it needs to be done right. So I'll take my time. And it looks like some writers in the community, Mary was saying, I need to sort out the next chapters. Desolate, I'm hoping I can write the first chapters. That's awesome. Getting into the beginning of it is so much fun. ML Claxton, I'm working on a novella. I only have 4 more chapters to write. I hope to be editing the first draft. Ooh, congratulations. And Stephanie, so I needed a name for a character, so I named a character after you. Aww. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Oh.
Yeah, but you have your first character named after you. It's like Mazel Tov.
I feel so special. I feel like this is an achievement. Thank you, Stephanie. I feel so honored. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to let the 3 of you get going, and I will outro the rest of it. But thank you so much, friends, for joining me. I really appreciate you guys.
All right, you're welcome.
And hopefully I see you guys next week. Same time, same place. And thank you again. And as we hop into the outro of this, I just want to thank each of you for coming and joining in the experience. It's been absolutely great doing this kind of like virtual writers group. The WriteNow writers group will be meeting at this time every single week. So I'm going to be trying this out for a few months. So same time on Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Come join us, whether you want to hop on the stream or chat it out in the comments. All are welcome. We had a great time chatting. Clearly, we talked about writing. We did some writing sprints, and we got a bunch of stuff together. So it's been a great experience. If you want to become a WriteNow member and you want to join in our writers group, either drop a comment, shoot me an email. It's my contacts on all my socials. So definitely reach out if you want more information, and good luck with that writing journey. Definitely get those goals done, and we'll chat more next week for the WriteNow writers group. I myself will be back tomorrow with the daily writing stream. Tomorrow I will be another Kauffman Writes. I'll be back up at, I think tomorrow is 12. I think I'm doing Thursdays. I tend to do an early afternoon one these days. So tomorrow we'll be back up at, so 11 a.m. Pacific, 11, 12, 1, 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back up for an early writing sprint. I'll be back with Kauffman Writes. We'll keep it casual. I'll continue on with Last Scarecrow, and come join in the writing fun. Don't forget, follow and subscribe if you're enjoying this. I forgot I should probably add that. So enjoying this, you'll be alerted when I go live. And that, my friends, is all that I got for you today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being involved in the conversation. And this brings us to this part of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.